Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a Big Game Indicating Dogs Q&A. So these live Q&As are Q&As that we do in conjunction with the Deer Dog Training Blueprint. And the Deer Dog Training Blueprint is a 12-part, month-by-month video series with everything you need to train your own deer dog from start to finish. We hold these Q&As in the Big Game Indicating Dogs Inner Circle, and the Big Game Indicating Dogs Inner Circle is a closed Facebook group where people who are following the Deer Dog Training Blueprint can all join this group and ask questions. We run these Q&As. We've actually got a really awesome group of now 265 members who have followed the Deer Dog Training Blueprint, where people that have been following it for a couple of years and that know a lot about it are now helping new people coming on. It's quite a cool community we've got there, people just helping each other along, and then I come along every couple of weeks and we do these big live Q&As, and this goes up on our podcast, the Paul Michaels Revolution podcast. So you can listen to these, anyone can listen to these for free, people who are following the blueprint, if they haven't got time to sit in and listen to these Q&As all the way through. You can jump on and listen to them while you're driving to work on the podcast, or you can also watch the videos on Facebook and YouTube. We've also got public pages, free, with lots of free public stuff on Instagram, Facebook and YouTube, all under Big Game Indicating Dogs, and also biggameindicatingdogs.com. So usually a day or two before I do these live Q&As, I throw a post up in the Big Game Indicating Dogs Inner Circle saying live Q&A coming up, and I say, give them everyone the time and date, and I say, if you can't make it, but you've got questions, ask them here. And I've got a few questions here. So let's just rip straight into those. I'll just do a quick refresh here actually. I've got two computers here. I've got one running the live stream, which has got a big delay in it. And I've got another one here where I can actually watch what you guys are watching, because these Q&As are actually done streamed live inside the Big Game Indicating Dogs Inner Circle. So people that are following the blueprint can actually jump in, and we often do like a bit of live Q&A. I've even called people on the phone before, but we do most of it just answering questions and comments, and I can sort of ask backwards and forwards a bit. It's a really good way of answering questions and getting info out there. So let's start. We've got a few questions here. Josh Jewell, I've been doing remedial training with my 2-year-old bloodhound Bo. I got him when he was a year old and he was absolutely out of control. The people I just opened the rest. She's a long comment. That's all right. The people I got him from had zero structure, so this last year has been an adventure. I've been working with them to get him walking close on a loose leash. He says he has about a 5-foot leash. And he's using a choke chain. It's actually a check chain, but anyway. Until starting the change of direction drill, he was pulling on the leash until he was basically dragging me around town. The change of direction drill has been working great, and in only 4 days, he is walking on a pretty loose leash. Yeah, so change of direction with leash work is huge, and we use it a lot in both the Deer Dog Training Blueprint. We also have a general dog training series, so it's not about training hunting dogs, it's just about dog training in general, people training pets and things. It's called the Palmico Dog Guide. Anyone that's listening in that's a non-hunter that wants to check out more of that, and sort of use all these same training principles without the hunting side of it. Palmico Dog Training on Facebook and Instagram. Basically a whole other side of it there. We've got video products, we've got Q&As, we've got free content and loads of stuff over there. But on both sides, in the Palmico Dog Guide and the Deer Dog Training Blueprint, we use that change of direction a lot. That's how you set up heel, range, loads of things. So Josh is saying his dog's gone from basically dragging him around town to walking pretty good on the leash in 4 days using that change of direction, which is pretty typical of results of a dog that hasn't had it done right and has developed really serious pulling on the leash, and then switching to using change of directly kind of properly and just doing a few basic things right. And you can basically sort it. I mean, I get a dog from pulling like a maniac to walking okay in one session. And then it's just polishing from there. And Josh is saying, so on 4 days of using change of direction, he is walking pretty good on the leash. However, he still likes to barely put enough tension on the leash so that he can monitor me through the leash. And that's something else that we talk about a lot too. Dogs monitoring you through the leash actually becoming a tool for the dog to not be attentive to the dog starts keeping track of you through the leash, and the dog starts using the leash as a tool to just know where you are, so it can just pull and run around like a maniac doing whatever it wants with no attentiveness. It's a huge reason why it's very important to get that tension out of the leash. He's saying, Josh says, I mean, it's a small amount of tension, just enough so that the leash is not completely loose. I'm trying to break that habit so that he will just pay attention to me and monitor his range with attention instead of his leash. If I tug the leash a little bit when he puts tension on it, he will slow down for a few seconds and walk with a loose leash, but then a few seconds later is right back to putting just a small amount of pressure on the leash again. He also loves to sniff the ground when we walk, and sometimes he will catch a scent from another dog or something that he likes, and he will take off on the trail really fast and pull the leash tight, and I have to pull him back on track and snap him out of it. Also, he likes... Okay, so there's heaps more here, but we'll do this one by one, bit by bit. Just want to see here. Facebook can be a bit funny, not showing me comments and who's logging in and a few different things. So first things first, Josh, 4 days in, man. If you're 4 days into using change of direction properly, then, you can see massive changes straight away in one session. You can see massive changes in 2 minutes sometimes when you switch from doing a lot of stuff incorrectly to doing a lot of stuff correctly, or even just a few things correctly. Good dog training, it's not super complicated, really isn't, but you have to do the basics right, and a lot of people doing a lot of stuff wrong, and then you show them just a few basic simple things and you have massive changes like straight away. But then from there, to get it really good and really reliable and solid, that's sort of what takes the time, so yeah, I guess that one of the biggest things, Josh, would be just carry on, just keep working on it. You're 4 days in, keep doing change of direction. That thing where he also loves to sniff the ground while we walk, sometimes he'll catch a scent and take off and yank on the leash and stuff. That's just a real consistency thing. If things haven't been quite right and now using change of direction and things, it's going to take, you'll have a few niggly things that will float around for a while, but the longer you are consistent with it, the better it'll get. And other things like doing more work on your stop drill will help that a lot too. Hey guys, we've got 13 people on. How's my sound? I can't see any comments, and I can't see, it's not popping up telling me who's on. Someone just throw a comment up letting me know the sound's good. Not really getting any feedback here. I just don't want to get half an hour into this thing and work out that the sound's not working. Hey Henry, can you just log in on your phone and just let me know that the sound's good? Oh, here we go. No, sounds good. Sweet. Thanks, Matthew. Yeah, so one thing is, yeah, you're 4 days in, man, and just keep working on it. And that sniff thing's the same. And it's working on the big picture. You know, you said it's, how old was the dog? 2 years old. You've had him for a year. He was absolutely out of control. The people before gave zero structure. I'm guessing if you're saying you've been working on the turns and stuff for 4 days, maybe you've only been working on our style of training for 4 days. I'm not sure. And I'd also be interested to know if you've got the Palmico dog guide as well. Talking about remedial training, I'm guessing you may do. I don't know, Josh, if you're on this Q&A, just throw a comment in. But, you know, if you're starting with an older dog that's got loads of problems, it's going to be the whole picture that's going to pull everything together and smooth everything out. You'll make massive changes in the way your dog walks on a leash in 1 day, introducing proper change of direction and all our leash fundamentals from the Palmico dog guide, and even the blueprint shows you how to do everything correctly as well. But the blueprint's more step by step. But the more you work on that, and then as you get a good stop drill going, as you get on top of your kenneling stuff, as you get on top of everything else and everything that pulls together, all of that sort of sniffing and yanking and pressure and everything just slows down and sort of comes together. He loves to sniff the ground. Just reading this comment again. He likes to be in the lead when I walk him. That's okay. I mean, that's good for a deer dog. Saying he likes to be on a lead in the lead in front when I walk him. I keep him on my right side, about 1 or 2 o'clock in front of me, about 3 to 5 feet. So my question is, should I be doing something to prevent him from monitoring me through the leash? At this point, every time I change direction on him, he takes the lead again and just barely puts tension on. Also, should I be preventing him from sniffing? And should I be letting him walk in front of me, or should I make him walk right beside me until he gets it right? Depends what you're doing. If you're following the deer dog training blueprint, you want a big game indicating dog, you should get him walking properly in front. If you're training with an older dog, watch the blueprint right through. Part 7, 8, and 9 are huge ones, and getting into non-communicative changes, change of direction, non-communicative stops, and all of that stuff. I've talked about this heaps. People coming in and watching a couple of parts and then asking lots of questions, and it's covered in massive detail later on in the blueprint. Getting really good at holding his sit command until I release him. That's good. I can walk around him in a full circle, even leave the room, and he'll hold his sit, which would have been impossible to do a year ago. He's really getting the hang of it, and I can tell that he is a lot less stressed out now. Now that he has a little bit of structure. Yeah, and dogs do, man. Dogs without any leader or structure are often a nervous wrecks, and dogs with plenty of structure and a good leader, and they know what they're meant to be doing, and good kenneling habits and all that sort of stuff, are chill and relaxed. Very, very common. And that's another thing I mean, on things like sniffing and pulling and different things like that. The more you get your overall picture sorted, the more your whole dog relaxes in general, and everything slowly starts falling into place. I want to make sure that he will stay on a loose leash and not monitor his own range, not take off with the long line before I make that attempt. I know it's only been 4 days, but I just want to make sure that I'm not creating any bad habits with the leash before I progress. Thanks again. So yeah, I need a little bit more context on some of that, Josh. Whether you're following the blueprint or the blueprint and the Palmico dog guide. If you're following both, and I'm guessing you are because you mentioned remedial training a couple of times and a leash a couple of times, sounds like you might be following the stuff in the Palmico dog guide on where we're retraining Bo, and we did that video on Odin. 2 big older dogs, both like bully crossbreeds, really hardy characters with a lot of bad habits, not necessarily super easy to train. And if you are, a big one, we just posted it like in the last couple of days, the next step with training Bo. Also, we did it with Miko, and all the same stuff as later on in the Deer Dog Training Blueprint with Print is in the remedial training, the Palmico dog guide, we just got Bo from training her on a short leash onto a long line, which gives us a lot more slack to keep that slack in the long line, do our non-communicative turns, do a whole bunch of stuff. It's just a whole new layer of training, and bringing about attentiveness, getting that tension out of the leash. So if you're following the Palmico dog guide, jump in and watch that new video in the remedial training section. If you're watching the blueprint, get on a long line and have a look at that stuff later on in part 7 and 8, non-communicative turns, non-communicative stop. There's a lot of fine tuning in those later parts, smoothing everything out. But I'll tell you what, it sounds like you're going good, man. If you've got a dog that's 2 years old, a year ago completely out of control, and you've got a stop command, you've got almost all the tension out on the leash, and you're following one of these products with all the information that's in it. You can send us a message, ask another question, run with it from here, ask questions in a circle. We'll just keep going, man, and get you fully sorted. Ethan Collins says, I got a question. I hear people talk about blooding their pup on their first deer and giving them the deer heart. What are your views on that? Blooding the pup sounds... some of our Palmico listeners will love that. Some of the non-hunters will love that. I wonder what the hell we're talking about. So, blooding the pup isn't a sort of term I've ever used, but what Ethan's talking about is when you shoot a deer over a big game indicating dog, and the dog takes you to its first deer, and you want it to know that that's what you want, that's what we're there, that's what we're after. Feeding the dog some of the deer, some meat off the deer, and it doesn't necessarily have to be the heart, but giving the dog a couple of trimmings off the animal's fine, good as gold, and it can be really good for increasing drive. Just double confirming that that's what you're after, that's what you're there for. Calm praise, give the dog a couple of offcuts, for sure it's all a good thing. Perhaps one little warning on that, little side note, is feeding a dog off the deer. Some pig hunters will tell you this. 2, feeding a dog bits of the pig, or even letting a dog chew on the pig. You've just caught your pig, or you just shot your deer, and you're sort of chilling out, having a break before you go, and the dog's sitting there chewing it. That can make the dog very possessive of the deer. It can cause them to get a little bit aggressive with other dogs and things like that. So that's just one thing to keep in mind. For me personally, it's never really been an issue because I've got control over my dogs, and if I do feed them and they get a little bit possessive or growly, I can easily just say, hey, cut that out, and keep on top of them. But just one thing, it's one thing it can create. I do it. I give my dogs little bits and pieces, just little trimmings, and give them a couple of bits to chew on and say, good dog, and it all just increases that drive. But it's pretty much the only treat training I do. Yeah. So Paul Herman, he thought this might help. He's got some good context and info here. The breed, German Wirehaired Pointer, 8 months old, male. Background, he started hunting when he was 6, out of the sport for many years, but been into dogs properly for the last 4 years. This is my first dog, and he's training it with expert advice though. Dog background, brought from a registered breeder in Victoria, have had it since 8 weeks old, lives with one other similar dog, 20 months old, 3 kids, 5, 7 and 9, crate trained, sleep in crate by himself in the garage, very cruisy temperament, loves retrieving. He's up to part 7 of the blueprint. That's some bloody good background there. And that's actually a good example for other people asking questions. Sometimes people just say, how do I stop my dog pulling on the leash? And I'm like, what are you watching? Are you following the blueprint, or the blueprint and the Palmico dog guide? What part are you up to? How old's the dog? Like, there's all these questions. So that's a good job there, Paul, and a good example for other people asking questions. There's as much context as possible is good, especially if you think you're not going to be here on the day. Question, he's wanting to get some advice on my pup being a little obstinate, a little bit not good. He's used some big word there. He's wanting some advice on his pup being not that good on the sit command from time to time, and what can I do to sharpen this up? Okay, so an 8-month-old German Wirehaired Pointer that's not being that good on the sit command, it's usually a reading and timing and a sharpness thing. I've really, and I've done a lot of one-on-one sessions, trained a lot of dogs myself, but it's the one-on-one sessions that have taught me a lot about this. Someone will email me, hi Paul, I'm having a bit of trouble with my dog, can I do a one-on-one session? I'm like, yeah, sure, let's do it. Ask them what we want to go over, and they'll say, oh, it's just not quite right on the sit, never has been, just can't get it quite right. And then we do the one-on-one session, and it always start the one-on-one sessions off, okay, show me what's happening. And I start seeing stuff straight away. I don't say anything or do anything. I need to watch what's happening for as long as I can, because if I just butt straight in and start training the dog, we often, like what Josh was talking about, like in talking about making massive changes in one drill sometimes. If I butt straight in, they don't even get a chance to sort of show me what the dog has been doing or show me what they have been doing, and then I've really got nothing to work with. So, and almost every time with that, a dog that's not getting the stop drilled quite right, it's a speed and a timing and a sharpness issue and a tone issue, and the dog sort of sits down and the person's real cruisy, and they're usually like a real nice cruisy guy or girl, and they sort of say sit, and the dog sits, and then they step back, and the dog sort of gets up, and then they go no, sit, and slowly step back in, and the dog slowly sits down, and they go good dog, and then cruisy step back, and the dog, and everything's a little bit slow and spongy, and it can be quite subtle too. And then I watch them do it, and I let them do a few drills, and then I go, okay, so you've just been a little bit slow there, and I'll go, and my tone, like their tone will be like sit down, and then I'll go, okay, I'll show you a couple of drills, and I'll go sit, and the dog, so right from the very first time I speak, it goes from sit to sit, and the dog's like, shit, this is different, sits down, and then the dog goes to get up, and I go, like real quick, and and I'll step in, I usually don't even have to step in or touch the dog or anything, but I'll even just take half a step in, jab my hand will shoot out in front of me with the flat palm. Even just the way I put that palm up, very sharp and quick, and I'll just go up, and the dog's like, whoa, and I've done it so quick. It's usually before the dog's bum can even lift off the ground. I'll see its nose, a dog when it gets up, their nose drops first. And I'm usually trying to cut them off even before their bum lifts up off the ground if I'm doing a sitting stop. Any wriggling, eating grass, moving, leaving the bum in the one place in their front feet will move, or they'll wriggle around, and it's very, very sharp, and it's not, no, it's up. And then if they do want to get up, then I'll put them straight back. And again, everything's very firm and sharp and quick. And we've just done a Palmico Q&A this morning, and I talked about this a lot. And that is switching from pressure to praise very quick and up, putting that pressure on. And as soon as the dog relaxes again, I relax and step back. Very important to take that pressure off at the right time too. That can be another one. The dog going to get up and people going up, and the dog freezes, but the person's, if you're watching this on video, when I go up, I'm leaning forward and my hands out and all my body language is rigid, and the dog just freezes and it's looking up, and the person's just standing there all rigid like that. As soon as the dog stopped, you actually needed to step back and relax that body language, release all that pressure, and then as soon as the dog relaxes, say, good dog. Always, it's the application and releasing of pressure and praise, and the pressure comes on the second the dog goes to do the wrong thing, and the second it stops doing the wrong thing, and you apply pressure, and the second it stops because you apply pressure, as soon as it stops, all that pressure has to come off, and it switches from pressure to good dog. I'm trying to think, like every time, it's just a reading and timing and a speed and sharpness and tone thing, man. So have a think about that. Just every time someone's like, oh, I'm doing the stop drill, I'm doing this, it's a bit spongy, and it's a speed and timing. So have a crack at that. Let us know. Might start doing a few more of these Q&As too, but more regularly. Matthew is into his third week to do his training. Matthew's into his third week to do his training. He has to go to a park down the road about 300 metres. He's found it more productive to drive to the park. Embarrassing, I know, in brackets. It's not embarrassing, man. I quite often drive my two dogs like 60 metres across the road because I've got to get across a road, and by the time like when I'm taking print and fly, and then I've got the road and gates and dry and everything. It's just so easy for me to put both dogs in the car in the back of the truck with my gate closed, open the gate, drive across the road. I don't know. And it's like 60 meters, so it's not embarrassing at all. So that he gets out of the car distraction free. He's saying he has to drive 300 metres up the road. He's found it easier to drive so that he gets out of the car distraction-free, and similarly, when his attention wanes, he's straight back in the car and home. Yep, that's a good point. Is this the right approach? Trying to walk him home from the park in particular seemed to be counterproductive to all the prior good work. Yep, no, you're bang on, man. And for all those reasons, that's why often I'd just drive. So you're making the point there. He gets there. You can bring him straight out of the kennel, straight in the car, straight to the park. So he's straight out of the kennel, basically straight out of the kennel, nothing in between, and he's straight out into the park training. You can train until his attention span wanes, and then you don't have this 300 meter walk back to the house, possibly ending on a bad note, because you've trained them at the park until his attention span wanes, and then you've got this 10-minute walk home with them not going that well, and you're sort of ending the session on not a on not a perfect note. You can train until he's waiting, and then you go straight back in the car and straight back home. Say, no, you're bang on. He's saying, is this the right approach? Yes, it is. And he's also said, excuse my stupidity, how do I access the Q&A? You access it right here, mate. When we say live Q&A, 4 p.m. on the 29th, the 12th, we hold them in the Big Game Indicating Dogs in a circle. And you can attend live and ask questions here, and we can actually bounce backwards and forwards with questions in the comments section. And then we also post it, and then it sits here live, so you can come back and watch the videos in the Big Game Indicating Dogs in a circle. We also post them to the Big Game Indicating Dogs public Facebook page in video format. They're also on Big Game Indicating Dogs on YouTube, and they also go up on the Paul Michaels Revolution podcast, so you can listen to them there as well. So basically, people that are following the blueprint or have subscribed or purchased it, they get access to the Big Game Indicating Dogs in a circle, and they can actually ask questions, and I'll answer them and all that sort of thing. And then once they're all done, later on, anyone can listen to them. Any other? So that's pretty much all my questions there that were asked on this post. Has anyone got 13 people listening? 11 people listening now, listening live. Any of you guys got any questions, guys or girls? Any live questions? We did a Palmico Q&A this morning. Quite a bit of good content come out of that. Been posting some new videos in the Palmico dog guide. More videos with Miko, more videos with Bo, the older dog that we're doing the remedial training with. Yeah, heaps of good stuff. Man, Miko's turning out it's just such a nice dog. Really, really nice. And yeah, gonna do some more sort of offshoots off the blueprint, more video products and stuff that are going to be useful for Big Game Indicating Dogs followers after the Palmico dog guide. She's sort of going to be a bit of a multi-purpose all-round dog, Miko. But yeah, she's just a really cool dog. Looking forward to doing some stuff with her. And she's actually just got to the age now. Actually, I was waiting for her to have her first heat. So once that was gone, because it was due any day, and she just wouldn't come on heat, I was wanted to get that passed. And then once that was passed, I knew I was in the clear to put her in the kennels for a week or something while I go hunting. Because I've actually been trying to get a gap to go away down south, which I thought I'd be able to do sort of around this time of year. And I thought Miko would easily have her first heat well before Christmas, and then I'd be in the clear to put her in the kennels for a week or two while I go away, and she just wouldn't come on heat. So I ended up getting her fixed, and she's just recovered from that, like full recovery a couple of weeks ago. Yeah, now it's Christmas, and everything's, all the kennels and everything's fully booked out, and but I'm slowly getting to the point where after the Christmas rush, I'll actually be able to get away and do some hunting trips. So looking forward to that. It's been quite a while. Keith Cook, do you treat pigs different with your dogs when hunting, i.e. letting them lick after the shot? Nah, it's all the same stuff for me. I don't like what in what respect, like. Yeah, I don't. It's all the same, whether it's a pig or a deer, or a goat or whatever. And then that depends. We talk about that, all the target-specific stuff in the blueprint, whether you want to have your big game indicating dog or deer dog, just target deer and not shoot pigs and the ins and outs of that, and then goats, and or some people might want to use it as an all-rounder, and the pros and cons of that too. But no, I just treat them all the same. I'm more focused on disease. Yeah. Personally, I don't feed. It's a good point actually. Yeah, I don't feed. I'm not like, I wouldn't be freaking out to let a dog lick a pig. I don't know. And there might be bad things that I don't know about, but then I know there's thousands of pig dogs around the country that chew on the blooming things before they're dead. So it's not something I've ever been overly concerned or conscious about. I do know that a lot of dogs won't eat raw pork, and then I've heard people say that feeding a dog raw pork can even make them sick. They'll eat it and spew it up and different things. And then I've heard other people say, nah, that's complete rubbish. I feed my dog loads of pork and it's good as gold. So I don't know. Personally, I haven't fed a dog raw pork. Probably wouldn't. But I also know people that cook it first and things. I don't know. That's my take on it. But I wouldn't mind if my dog licked it or had a little chew, but I wouldn't like cut a shoulder off and let them sit there and eat it. Even if it wasn't for disease, I don't know, just raw pork is, like you say, it's a bit of a different thing. But venison, I let them go for it. Pork, I probably wouldn't, but there's probably other people in the inner circle that'll listen to this that can have more input on that. It's a good point, actually. Matthew, if you intend to use your big game indicating dog as a duck retriever too, is there any recommendation when to commence that? Is there anything to be mindful of when having a dual use dog? Yeah, there is, and we've talked about this a lot. That's probably something I'm going to do with Miko well and truly after maybe a late next year or something, when the Pal Miko dog guide's well and truly wrapped up and sorted, get into some retrieving with her, and then at a later date I'll probably be doing some stuff with starting right from a pup, going into retrieving and things like that too, and training a full blown versatile dog. There's a really good podcast on this on the Paul Michaels Revolution podcast, which is on Facebook and YouTube and all the free podcasts there. Just search the Paul Michaels Revolution. Scroll down, we've got the Pal Miko Q&As, we've got the BGID, which is the Big Game Indicating Dogs Q&A, and we did one with the guy Julian Payne, who has trained quite a good retriever with a dog after the Deer Dog Training Blueprint, and that's what I would lean to if you really do want a dog that's going to be really good big game indicating dog, and then that can fetch ducks later on too. I would tend to get the first year out of the way. This is just what I would say with what I have available at the moment with the blueprint. I'm probably going to make a video series later on that actually shows how to train both at the same time, how I will do it, training a pup to be a big game indicating dog, as well as a retriever, as well as training your retrieving from a young age, from a pup. But as soon as you do that and you're doing two things at once, there's a whole new world of variables. Whereas if you just follow the blueprint, and this is what Julian did, and it worked very well for him too. He's actually used his dog in game bird trials and things like that as a retriever, and she's also very good on the deer as well. So she does both. It's exactly what you're talking about, and without like going into tons of crazy stuff, and going down loads of different rabbit holes. If you follow the blueprint right through to part 10, get your dog about 12 months old, finish all the blueprint stuff. So you've got your stop, go, turn, your range, your stop to the shot, steadiness, tracking, all of that stuff. And you've got all the lifestyle stuff as well, everything set up. Shoot some deer over the dog with it all close and steady and slow and everything, and show it how to do all of that so it knows how to do that, so it can come back and default to that later. Then get into your retriever training. That would be how I would do it. And if I really wanted a dog to be really good at both, particularly if I wanted to keep the big game indicating really solid while also having a dog that can retrieve the ducks, that's the way I'd do it. I'd follow the deer dog training blueprint to a T, and then just do my retriever training after that. And you'll find when you go to do your retriever training with the dog that you followed the blueprint with, you already have a lot of really useful stuff already set up that's going to make that super easy. You know, you've got your stop and your go and attentiveness and control and respect and everything set up. You'll find it quite easy, I think. That's what Julian did, and we basically talked right through everything he did in that podcast. So yeah, I'd recommend having a listen to that. You can always come back and ask more questions here. That's what I would do. And then you're not going through this process with the blueprint where you're trying to teach all this range and control and everything one day or in one session, and then you're going out and throwing a dummy and making it run flat out the next. Get one side all set up, and then it's very easy to add that whole other side, and the dog will default back to, it'll learn this whole new skill set of retrieving and do that when it's applicable, but you'll already have that big game indicating dog side all set up and done. And if you take it right to the level where you actually run all the way through the blueprint, shoot a couple of deer, so your dog's seen that whole process play out and knows, oh, this is why I've had to stay close the whole time. This is what all this control and shooting drills and clappers and all this crap's been about. It now means that if we go and practice all that and do the same thing out in the bush, that we get to sneak right up to these deer and the boss shoots them, and it's epic and dogs love it, and they like the penny drops and they go, now I get it. And dogs just repeat whatever brings them success. So if you carry out that whole process right through to shooting a couple of deer over the dog knows how to do it, and it knows it can bring it success, and it'll want to repeat that in the future. Then it's very easy to stack on retrieving and running around and more fun and freedom on top of that. Because when you step back into the bush with your deer stalking rifle and you get on a bit of deer sign, your dog's going to already know how all that works, and the retriever training and the running around and running flat stick way away from you and braking and all that sort of stuff is, it's not going to bring that back in because it already knows what works. You know, you'll have it's a lot more simple. And yeah, it's a long process getting that whole first year out of the way and then doing retriever training, but it's very, very solid. And that's a very easy answer of something that you can do using the blueprint. You can follow the blueprint right through, get that solid, and then do your retriever training after, and it's pretty simple. Quite hard to go wrong. If I tell you to do other stuff, it could get messy and complicated, and there might not be, you know, enough stuff out there to support you. Any other live questions here, guys? Yeah, I've been gearing up. Matthew, the dog in question is 12 weeks old. Yep. Keith Cook, when you start your dog on scent work, would you consider it stupid or confusing for the dog to give it a different command for different types of game, i.e. deer, goat, pig? A mate who does explosive detected dogs has suggested different harness so it knows what to target. You could do. Yeah, I mean, it's not, do you consider it stupid or confusing? I wouldn't consider it stupid or confusing at all, and as long as you're doing everything else correctly, if you're doing all your skin work and you just want to add one more little layer or step of using a goat skin one day, a pig skin another day, and a deer skin the other day, and every day you want to use this deer skin, you want to say, find the deer, and every day you want to use the goat, say, find the goat. It's 100% not out of the question at all to do that. And you could. I guarantee you, if someone said, I'll give you X amount of dollars to train this dog to only hunt pigs on this day and deer on this day and goats on this day, you could do it. It'd just take a lot of time and consistency, and you could do it for sure. People do it. As you said, you've used that example of the explosive detector dogs. 100% you can teach a dog to select a certain scent or item on command. Feel free to do that. If it's literally just that and you're doing everything else right and you want to add a command, for sure, by all means. And it's an interesting idea. All these ideas are coming to mind of fine tuning that and getting it bang on. You could do that every time. Say, find the deer, find the pig, find the goat. The other thing I would do is what comes to mind actually is I would do it similar to the way I teach multiple dogs to only go off their name. So if I have Print and Fly sitting together, I'll be doing the same thing with Print, Fly and Miko. So I can open the back of the truck, all the three dogs are sitting there, and when I go, okay, or say one dog's name, they don't all three come bowling out. I would say, have a stop on all of them, say sit, and then say Fly, and Fly comes out. And the other two stay there and say, Fly, get back in. Miko comes out. So I'm bringing the dogs out one at a time. It's very, very easy. If you've got a dog that already has a proper stop command and you've got all your attentiveness and training and respect and everything set up, it's very easy to add on things like this. And that goes back to the retrieving thing. Once you have everything set up, with what the blueprint does, it's very easy to segue into other things because you've already got dialogue with the dog. And dialogue's, a really important subject. A lot of people don't have dialogue with their dog. They can't. Their dog's not looking to them, waiting for the next thing. And their dog doesn't know what stop, go, turn, and just like basic communication. If you don't have that with the dog, it's very difficult to teach them stuff. Once you do, it's very, very easy to teach them stuff. And what I would do, and I could even do it as an experiment, or just for a laugh, I bet you I could have Print or Fly, or Miko for that matter, and I could put a piece of deer skin and a piece of pig skin and a piece of goat skin in front of them, and within about a day I could have them, if I said, get the goat, they'll be picking up the goat skin, get the deer, they'll be picking up the deer skin, get the pig, and they'll be picking up the pig skin, and then I'd start doing scent drags with them and all of that, and just work forward from there. I'd start with just two, pig and a deer, for example. I'd get them retrieving it or even picking it up or indicating it, or however I want to do it. And I'd put the two lots of skin in front of me, and I'd point at the deer skin and say, get the deer, and get them to pick it up. And then I'd say, get the pig, and get them to pick it up. That's how I'd do it. That's the first idea that come to mind anyway. Anyway, I could go on a massive monologue about that. Any other questions? Any other live questions? But yeah, that's how I'd start to do that, Keith. Yeah, even play retrieve. So it's like doing a double retrieve where you throw two out and you have a left and a right, and you point the dog to tell them which one to get. I would do that, but instead of it being sides, you could even do this. So there's loads of ways you could do it, but that's how I'd do it. And I'd get the dog retrieving different pieces of skin, and I'd link commands. I missed Paul's earlier question. Oh, yeah. Paul, Paul here, he's got a question. I've just started recall at a distance of my 8-month-old German Whitehead Pointer, and to be honest, I'm very concerned about my dog not coming when called. Is there any way we can ensure pup complies recall at a distance, i.e. long line e-collar? What's your thoughts, please? Hopefully you're still online here, Paul. So you're saying your pup's not coming when you call it. Is it staying on the stop? Is it just like rock solid, not wanting to move off the stop? Just throw a comment if you're still here, Paul. But long story short, and it's quite basic really, but yeah, it'd be good to have more context on exactly what's happening. Yeah, I would just do it with the long line. And if you're walking away, if you're saying, just start a recall at a distance. So in the deer dog training blueprint, we do train a recall right from a pup, but the dog's always really close. We train the dog to stay close, and then we train a stop command where we get further and further away from the dog till we can tell the dog to sit. We can go really far away from it, so the dog's got a good stop and it's quite solid on there, even while we move away, even while we go out of sight, and while we fire guns, and while we do all sorts of stuff. Good solid stop. And one idea or one way of there's heaps of comments here that I'm not seeing, I think. It's showing 16 comments on one computer, and over here I'm only seeing 3. It's a bit weird. This Facebook live sometimes. Okay, I've got the comments here now. So Paul is still here. So just for the listeners, yeah, in the deer dog training blueprint, we train. So Paul's saying he's staying on the stop fine, but I'm shitting myself that he won't come when I call him, trying to not start bad habits. Okay, so just for context for everyone else, like I was saying, in the blueprint we train a very good stop command, and stop means stop, and stay stopped until told to go. And there's loads of parts to that. It's a big long process that we start off right from day one with a young pup. And we work through a step-by-step process over months and months until we go from the pup just sitting for a couple of seconds while we're standing right in front of it, right through to basically our pup can be at a distance from us. We say sit, and they sit straight down, and then we can walk away from them. We can walk 100 meters away, 200 meters away if we want, and run around and fire shots and everything. It's a very solid stop. And a big part of getting that is we always go back to the dog to release it. So for months, the dog actually is never released off the stop without us going back to it. And what that does, if you always tell a dog to sit and then you walk away and you release it, and then you tell it to sit again and you walk 100 meters away and you release it again, or you keep putting a dog on a stop and you walk way away and then call it. If you always do that, then the dog's always anticipating the release or always anticipating you calling it as you walk away. But if, as you train a stop command, you always go back to the dog, then the mere fact that you're not with it means it's not going to be released until you go back to the dog. So it's never anticipating the release while you're away from it. It's one aspect of getting a nice rock solid stop that the dog stays on while you walk away. Now, I've heard people say you should never release the dog while you're away from it, because you do that for the first time, you've taught the dog that it can release off that stop while you're away, and that could affect the reliability of your stop. But as Paul's talking about here, if you go too far down that road, you can actually end up with a dog that you say sit, and then one day in the field, and we actually do it in the Deer Dog Training Blueprint, can't remember what part it is, I think it's about 8 or 9 or 7 or 8 or something. Once we've got it all set up and we can say sit and we can walk around on 5 shots and our dog's fully steady, or we actually have a part in there that I say, okay, now we're going to do releasing from a distance, because if you always go back to the dog to release it, part of the reason why we do this long range stop drill thing is so if we're ever in the field and our dog's indicating a deer or something's happening in the hunt, and we just want to put our dog on a stop and carry out a hunt. I might want to, there might be deer out in a clearing or something, and I know where it is, I've got it pinpointed, and I actually just want to tell my dog to sit down, stay there for a minute, while I sneak 50 or 100 meters up over the brow of this hill and shoot this deer, and then I'm going to call you to me. There could be loads of different situations where that's useful. It might be a very difficult close quarters bush stalking situation. You might be bow hunting or in very thick bush, and the deer's right there or the animal's right there, and you know where it is, and you just need to position or wait for it to move or take a few steps or something, and you just want to move around a bit. You don't need the dog anymore, and all it's going to be is more movement and more sound. And one more thing to think about, it's very good to be able to just say, tell your dog to sit down, and it's very, very solid there. You don't have to worry about it. You don't have to keep looking back on this intense stalking. You say sit, it sits there. You can forget about the dog till you release it again. But then there's other situations when you're hunting where you want to be able to tell your dog to sit, you move, and then call it to you without having to go back to it. In an ideal world, you would always go back to your dog to release it. And so you can try that, you can do that too. But for me, personally, I actually want to be able to call my dog to me out in the field once I've put it on the stop. And I only do that a few times to make sure my dog will break off that stop and come to me. And as soon as I can see, okay, I'm out of the woods on that one, and I know if I put my dog on the stop and I give it a good clear recall, it's going to actually come, and it's not going to be stuck on the spot, not even knowing that it's allowed to do that, And it sounds like Paul's in that situation where he's taught this rock solid stop so solid that he's trying to call his dog to him out in the train, and it's just not coming. It's like, nah, we've practiced this. I'm not meant to stop. You always come back to me, and I'm not coming. And I've seen it where the dog is real sticky, and it's like, nah, I'm not meant to come off the stop. I definitely wouldn't freak out about it, Paul, at all. It's a good problem to have, and it's not necessarily a bad habit. If your dog's running around, if it breaks off that stop and like charges 100 meters across the paddock after a distraction and doesn't come back when you're calling it, that's a problem. But a dog that is so solid that you're calling it while it's on the stop and it's not, that's a good problem to have. I would just use the long line, man. So if you call him and he doesn't come, I walk back up to him, grab the long line. If the dog, if it was print, I'd just go here print and pull him on the long line. And then if that doesn't, that's going to work. You can pull him with the long line, and then I'd practice a couple of those so he knows what you're doing. And then I would go just a couple of meters past the end of the long line and call him to me. If he doesn't come, I go back to him, pull on the long line. No, you're actually meant to come when I call. And then I'd put him back on the stop, and then I'd go past the end of the long line, so I'm not using the long line, and then call him to me. And then I'll just repeat that until the dog realizes, oh, okay, I am meant to come while he's away from me. and then I just extend it out. It shouldn't be hard, man. It really shouldn't. Again, it's a good problem to have. As some really, really good hunting dog trainers will tell you, that the problem you've got is a very good one, because you've got a rock solid stop. The dog will never come off, even when to the extent that you're trying to call him to you and he's not coming. But for reasons that I was just talking about earlier, I actually do like to be able to call my dog to me off a stop in the field for practical reasons. I might tell the dog to sit down, sneak in on an animal, and then the animal just moves off. And if I haven't got, I'll go back to the dog if I've got time, because it's more solid and it's keeping my stop more solid. But if time is an issue and the animal's moving off, or something's happening where it's a time critical situation, and I just need my dog to get to me so I can carry on, then I want to know that I can call it if I really need it to. So does that make sense, Paul? Just throw a comment in. Let me know what you think. Sometimes if I just comment, that's why I'm randomly commenting a full stop. Sometimes because it refreshes comments. Sometimes it's telling me up top there's 18 comments, but I can only see 4 or 5. Christian, how's it going? Christian says, my GSP is over a year old now and I've completed the blueprint and she is amazing. Haven't shot a deer yet, but that won't be far away. Excuse me. I want to hopefully use you this duck shooting coming up, retrieve training after a few deer. Started training the hold yesterday and that's going great. Have a 10-second hold already, haven't pushed any further, that's cool. What is next after the hold? I think straight line work, planting dummies and not throwing first. Yeah. That's cool. And that would be the first thing I train. And we actually made that free retrieve video that was on Facebook and YouTube ages ago, showing you how I was training print a hold, and said we were going to make more on that, and we just haven't had time. And there wasn't a huge amount of interest in it, funnily enough, but man, in retrieving, I'm guessing you've listened to, Christian's pretty good at listening to most of our stuff. I'm guessing you listened to that retrieve, that bird dog QnA podcast that we done with Julian Payne. It's a real good one to listen to. There's loads of different ways you could start retrieve training from here, Christian. There's lots of good books about it too. Basically, to try and cover it off as much as I can to give you like a starting point for the next step is get that hold sorted. And it's like what I showed you with print in that retrieve video, and the difference between print and fly. I taught fly a hold, and that basically holding that dummy and being close to me is good. And you teach her that hold, so put it in her mouth. So the dog actually likes holding the dummy next to you, and she's like, "This is the good place to be." And they they hold it in their mouth, and they sit there with their chest puffed out, waiting for a pat, and that's the good thing. That's what you're supposed to do. Then it's just, you just automatically have a retrieve when you have a dog that wants to be sitting next to you holding that thing in its mouth. Because once you have their hold and the dog wants to do it, if it wants to hold that dummy in its mouth sitting next to you, then when you take it out of its mouth and throw it away, what does it want to do? It wants to go out, pick it up and bring it back and sit next to you holding it in its mouth. So the more solid you can get that hold, the more that when you throw it away, the more that dog's going to want to go out, pick it up and come back and hold it in front of me. Whereas if you have a dog like Print that I've done a tiny bit of hold training with them, basically no retrieve training. When I pick up a dummy and throw it, Print gets all excited, runs out, looks at it, picks it up, drops it, doesn't know what the hell to do with it. And that's where a lot of people start their retrieve training. So that would be a really good, that's the basic idea of that, is get that hold solid, and even start with it like 2-3 meters away. Just when you've got a really good hold going one day and you feel like, man, I reckon if I throw this, she's probably going to want to pick it up and come back and hold it again, because she wants to hold it, and she gets a big pat and heaps of praise for holding it next to me. And you just sort of gently take it out of its mouth, good dog, and throw it. And if you followed the blueprint, you've got your way you go, go and get it. You've got that stop and go, and you just throw it, and the dog looks at it, and you go on, way you go. And they go, pick it up, and as soon as it's in their mouth, they're going to want to come back to you and hold it. So, and then start to get the distance on that, start throwing it further. I've done it where I've trained, if you get that hold good first, you can actually teach a really good retrieve if you do everything right, keeping it steady the whole time. So then it's, once you just throw 2 or 3 and the dog knows, run out, pick it up, bring it back. And it does the hold, and you take it out of the dog's mouth. Then you make the dog sit, wait, throw it, and the dog watches the throw, watch it hits the ground, everything's steady. So that's called steady to the throw, which transfers over to steady to the shot, steady to the drop of a bird, and all that sort of stuff. Then you've got this dog, and they're like held back like a coiled spring, and you say sit, throw it, and they watch it, and they're looking, waiting, marked it, and then you say way you go, and they run out, pick it up, bring it back. That you've kind of got a retrieve then, and then you're going to have your next thing with the GSP. Transferring that to birds shouldn't be an issue, but you may want to look into that, like getting a wing or getting some feathers, or even getting a bird at some stage, and just making sure the dog's comfortable with the bird in its mouth. Then you get things like sides, multiples, blinds. Then you can practice your straight line running and different things like that. And we talk about that a lot in that podcast with Julian Payne. Just throw in a comment if you've listened to that, Christian. Listen to that podcast. And, teaching a proper retrieval training, and that's probably what I'll do with Miko. She loves the water. She's just in there going hard. It's a hard case. She's got an awesome point and a stalk, and real keen on birds. She's just going to be a machine, eh? And so I'll probably do that with Miko. I've got a few different plans with Miko, but that's one really cool option that I can do with her is we could film a bit of the series later on in 2019 once the Palmiko dog guide's all wrapped up and that whole system's there for non-hunters who want a good, properly trained dog. Once we've taken her right through to she's basically doing everything I'm going to want her to do, then I can I can flog her from those, I can steal her away from the Palmiko audience and do some cool stuff with the big game, on the big game indicating dog side with her, and she's going to be a really cool, clean slate. And we've actually documented everything I've done with her, and to that point with the Palmiko dog guide, and I can do a retrieving training camp with her and film all that and show you how we've done that, and that can be used by people who are following the blueprint. Basically, this is how I would train a retriever properly after the blueprint. And we're also going to do some cold tracking stuff too, for people in the States, and even there's a lot of cool stuff that I want to cover off over there. But yeah, what I'm saying is it is a, it's kind of like me trying to explain how to train a retrieving dog is like someone after watching the entire deer dog training blueprint that we made over an 18-month, almost a 2-year period, we're still chipping away at it. And me trying to explain it all, sitting at a desk and giving you something you can actually use and work with. It's bloody hard because it's actually a big, long process. Anyone can do it, but you can't just, you got to show how to do it, so but what I just went over there is a good next step anyway, is just doing that, doing what I said. Is there any other questions? Am I missing any questions here? Does that make sense, Christian? It's saying 22 comments, but I'm not looking at 22 comments here. Christian said he's taken pages of notes from that podcast today. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, so that would honestly be my next step, man. It's just that whole thing and it's the whole idea of getting that really good hold, is now you can just, like I said, you've trained the dog to want to hold that dummy in front of you. And the whole idea of that is getting it to the point where when you take that dummy off the dog and throw it away, only one thing makes sense to the dog, is go and pick it up and bring it back. That's the whole idea of training a hold first. I even think in that podcast, Julian said he started without the hold and then he had to teach a hold later. And he said that was about the only thing you do different is teach a hold first. Yeah. So yeah, get into that, man. Retriever training's so fun, especially with a dog that you've already got a bit of rapport with, and it's, a dog that you train with a blueprint has got its stop and go and it's pretty steady and sort of got its head screwed on. And they're just fun and easy to do stuff with, Yeah. So basically, once you've got your single sorted, and don't every dog's different. Some dogs will run hard all day, like Julian was saying in that podcast. His dog Seek was, the term I think he used was hot, meaning she'll just retrieve hard over and over and over, and with a dummy, and other dogs won't. And it's sort of the same thing as scent work with a skin. Some dogs lose interest pretty quick, but that doesn't mean. But then you take them hunting and actually start shooting stuff, and they'll track real deer all day, hard out. But if you want to keep getting them to track a dead piece of skin, they go, they get sick of it pretty quick. It's just an innate object, It's the same as retrieving, and you have to read that. And some dogs will only do 2 or 3 perfectly and then lose interest. So, and if your dog does that, then just do 2 retrieves, and some really good retrieving systems say, 3 or 4 retrieves every second day. You can make really good progress doing that. And so if Christian, you can get your dog's hold to the point where it's really good and you can throw the dummy away once or twice and it runs out and brings it back, end it there. Then throw it a little bit further and then get it to the point where the dog knows exactly how to do it over, a couple of weeks or something, even longer, where you get it to the point where now you can grab the dummy, tell the dog to sit, throw it as hard and as far as you can, tell the dog to go, and it goes out, picks it up, brings it back, and you can do that a few times and it's solid. Now, then you've got a retrieve. There's different ways of teaching sides. I think Julian, we talked about it a lot in that podcast. How I've done it in the past is you put your dog on a sit, throw a dummy up to the right, and then your right, which would be the dog's left, and then give you a release choose a different command for you. You know, we have our double peep to walk in front. We can also have away you go for a full release, so just go and run and play. Have a different command for your fetch. Just introduce that. So it's like a whole new command. You go fetch. You can say coconut bananas if you want, but just choose that one word that's going to be your fetch command. And then your dog will learn, and it's that whole thing is setting them up for success. And we talked about this in that podcast, is that every time the dog has to trust in you, that every time you say go fetch, something's out there. From the blueprint, you've already got the beginnings of some directional stuff of basically the dog going in the way you point it to go. And I was doing this years ago, like 2012 type of thing with Tessa, who Tessa had, you know, stop, go, turn, and a bit of this stuff. And she also had a bit of directional stuff. And I remember doing this in Nahuramai hut when I was living in the bush doing possums, reading about dog training and experimenting with stuff with Tessa. And I taught her sides and blinds real quick, but I got her retrieve good. And then she had a stop and a go. And then so she had that straight line retrieve that we were talking about. So she was at the point I could say sit, throw it, she'd go out, pick it up, bring it back, and sit down again. And then once I had that real solid, and she knew if I was probably using a stick in the bush, not even a dummy. If I picked up a stick, walked out into the hut clearing and said sit, she was sitting there waiting for me to throw it. Then, so you get the dog to that point. Then walked her out in the clearing one day, told her to sit down, walked back and threw the stick out to my right, her left, and it landed. She's steady to the throw, so she's standing there looking at the stick out to her left. And I said, go fetch him, and stepped and pointed to my right, which was her left. She knows the stick's there anyway, and she ran out, picked up the stick on her left, and then come back to me. And then I'd done a whole heap of those all out to her left, and then I'd done a whole heap all out to her right. This is over a couple of weeks. And then one day I went out and I threw one to her right and I threw one to her left. And then I did that same thing to get her to go to the one to her left. I step and point to her left and say, go fetch. And she sure enough, she went to her left, picked up that one, brought it back to me. And then I took her back to the same spot, sat her back down, pointed to her right, my left, and said, go fetch. And she went to that one. And straight, just like that, now I had a dog, I could throw a stick out to her left or her right, and whichever, she watched the stick fly and land, so she knew it was there. And then just incrementally built it up. Then I got it to the point where you could go out in a bit of long grass, or I'd put the sticks out there. I'd put her around the back of the hut, tell her to stay there, and I'd come back out into the hut clearing. I'd put a stick in behind a tuft of grass out to the right of where I'm going to sit her down, and I put another one in a tuft of grass out to the left. Pretty easy, but so she can't see them when I bring her back around and sit her down. This is after 2 weeks of every day doing that left-right thing with her watching me throw the stick. Then I brought her back out. I'd set up the sticks. They were already there out to her left and right, basically where she'd been picking them up every day for the last 2 weeks. Sat her down. I walked back 10 or 20 metres, or probably 10 metres, which is about how far back I was standing when I was doing all this stuff. Hadn't thrown a stick, but she'd been retrieving sticks to her left and right every night for 2 weeks. And I pointed to her left, which was my right, and I said, go fetch. And she sort of like cocked her head, looked at me, looked, and then realised, even though she hadn't seen me throw the stick, she'd been doing it, and she just got up, ran out to her, whatever way I said, the way I pointed, ran out there, sniffed around, oh, there's a stick there, picked it up, brought it back. And then I took her back out, sat her back down, walked back to my spot, did the same thing to the left, and she ran out, found the stick, picked it up. She'd just done blind retrieves with sides. And you do the exact same thing with back. And there's loads of different ways to do it. Another way is for blinds and getting a dog to run back is to walk with the dog, and with the blueprint you've got everything you need to do this too. Walk with the dog in front of you, carrying a stick, a dummy. Don't use sticks, aren't actually that good to use. You want to use a proper dummy for loads of reasons, including safety. If a dog picks up a stick and holds it by the end and is running full clip back through the grass with a stick in its mouth and the other end of the stick stabs into the ground, it stabs your dog down the throat and all sorts of crazy stuff. Don't use sticks. Dogs chew sticks and they hold them funny and all. It is really good if you can use a proper retrieve bumper right from the start. What was I saying? Yeah, so have your bumper, dog walking in front, and you just drop the bumper while you're walking and keep walking. And then even just take like 5 steps. So you've got a dog that already retrieves that bumper. Drop the bumper while you're walking with the dog walking in front of you. Walk about another 5 or 6 steps. Turn back around, turn the dog around. You've got all your directional stuff from the blueprint, and just say, and point it back towards the bumper and say, go fetch. And it'll sort of go to walk out that way, look around. Oh shit, there's a bumper 3 meters away. And it'll run out, pick it up, bring it back if you've got your hold right from the start. Give it a good pat, good dog. Walk further. 5 minutes later, drop. Don't do them over and over again, and don't do too many. Even if your dog just wants to do 2 properly, then go again, walk, drop the bumper. This time walk 10 meters. So the dog's not seeing you drop this bumper. You're just stealthily, while the dog's not watching, dropping the bumper behind you, and keep walking. Stop the dog, turn it around, point it back towards the bumper and say, go fetch. And they'll remember from the last time. This time they'll have to run a little bit further. And a good thing is point big arm, like right out to your right when you want the dog to go that way. Right out to your left when you want your dog to go that way. And an arm straight up is back. And when you're doing this with the dog, this is a good one way of teaching the dog to run back, which is basically run away from you to look for a blind. Drop that bumper behind you. Teach the dog that when you turn it around and send it to go back, that means there's a bumper back there, and that's the key, that the dog learns to trust. When you're pointing, it's got to love that retrieve and want to do it. And when you point right, it's because there's a bumper out there. And later on, when you point right, it's because there's a duck out there. And this is how you're ending up with a dog that really wants to listen and it knows what it's meant to do. So there's all these different ways, and there's loads of them. And then there's the whole step-by-step thing. And it's a cool thing, man. Retrieve training is good fun. But that gives you heaps, so you can take pages and pages of notes off this, Christian, and start dabbling. And we can do more on this too. Any more questions, guys? Yeah, so I'm sort of getting geared up to do a couple of South Island trips in 2019, maybe a couple of 3, in doing more hunting around up here. Miko's at the age now and sort of getting set up with a few other things so I can get away more regularly. Sort of caught up on lots of things, heaps of annoying niggly things are sort of all done and sorted and trying to get into a bit of a routine. Might try to head down in February and chase a chamois and maybe have a nosy around, see if I can shoot a big fat hard antler, hard velvet stripper stag or something, or a chamois, whatever comes first, and then probably head back down south for the raw, and then I might have a bit of a nosy round for a tar, maybe winter or even spring, maybe October. Go for those tar when it's warming up a bit, not midwinter, but they've still got that mane, you know. I really want to shoot a good bull with a good mane. But tell you, for me, talking about tar hunting, shooting a tar would be a good start. So we'll have a crack at that at some stage. But yeah, getting all geared up. Got a new pack and picked up a mean spotting scope off Trade Me the other day, which was a good score. Which is that's definitely something when you're getting up high. Christian's just said he'll take pages of notes off this as well. Sweet, man. No, it'll be cool to see it all come together for you. Spotting scope's just something when we're down south. I've done a couple of trips around the South Island, done a little bit of hunting down there. It's just such a big place, you know, and I've sort of been playing out a bit of a long-term strategy on my South Island hunting, and even tar hunting and hunting deer down there and chamois and things. Haven't really been too fussed about I've got to shoot something first time. I was really the first couple of trips I did down there was just the very first trip I did last Christmas. It was really just road tripping around and just like driving to road ends, and because you know you can look on WAMs and you can research all you want and the doc website and all of that, and like, but until you actually drive to bloody Twizel and drive way out, you know, an hour out of Twizel down some back road and get to the end of the road and the river and the gate and see what's locked and what isn't and where you can get in and what the track's like, and or on the west coast somewhere and where can you park and where, you know, like for me, just that driving around, getting acquainted and actually seeing what places look like when you pull up is a good first step. And that's sort of what I did that first loop last Christmas. And then in April, we drove around and we sort of poked our noses in a couple of places and just looked around and, you're getting a feel for it. And I really feel like this next trip is the first trip where I'm a little bit oriented. I've sort of got the feel for things and actually go down and give it a good nudge, you know. But even still, for me, because I'm basically doing it all on my own. I don't have anyone that's hunted tar for years that's going to take me into all their spots. I've had loads of offers of that type of thing, but I sort of want to work it all out myself. You know, that's half the fun of it, and it is cool. It's been a cool little mission, sort of working it all out and piecing it all together and finding my own spots too. You know, like you can. It's awesome being taken in places by people that have hunted that same spot for years. But for me, and it's actually something I've been only working out over the last, even the last few months. All my hunting's always been on my own and going in and exploring new spots and working it out for myself and being completely independent and making all my own decisions and things. And, you know, doing this big game indicating dogs thing, I've had loads of offers, come here and do this and let me know when you're going hunting so I can come and all that, and I've been filming and doing all this stuff. But yeah, when I boil it all down, really, the main thing that I look forward to and want to do in hunting is mainly going out on my own, finding my own spots and working out how it all works and putting my own systems together for how stuff works is, and yeah, I've got quite a few plans Like I said, I got a new spotting scope there, which is, I mean, that's common knowledge. Everyone's, and you have to read a couple of magazine articles and people say how important a spotting scope is, and it's dead right. And you think, oh, I'll just use the binos, but you get down there and you climb a hill for 2 hours and you sit down and you're just looking at so much country and it's so big. Spotting scope and a decent one can save a lot of legwork, so I've got one of those. Another few little dinky bits of camping equipment and stuff, and trying out a different pack. I sold my old drone and got my old Mavic Pro and got a Mavic Air, which is a lot smaller, so I can use that a bit more. Just sort of trying to get everything lined up and planning a few trips, Sandy, any reason you don't train the dogs to wait? I find wait, stop and stand quite handy, and I imagine there will be times in the bush we would want the dog to just stand still for a moment to catch up if the dog is ranging too far, or if there is a deer nearby that we don't want to spook. I mean, that's our stop command, and we have a steady, and we have non-communicative stops and tons of things. The whole standing stop versus a sitting stop is a massive debate in itself. I do a sitting stop, but then I can also use my steady and use the hiss command to get my dog to hold up and wait. And I can use my steady to actually cause the dog to creep a little bit and bring out that stalk and tons of stuff. It's all in the blueprint, but I don't really know what you mean by that, but we have a stop and a steady. Yeah. Any other questions? We might wrap it up. Got a podcast booked in for the 1st, which should be quite a cool one. We've got a guest coming in, and be looking at doing more podcasts with more guests in the new year. If you're watching this podcast on Facebook or YouTube, or you're listening to it and you want to find out more about big game indicating dogs, the Deer Dog Training Blueprint, the Palmico Dog Guide, any of our stuff, for the hunting side of things, biggameindicatingdogs.com. Also Big Game Indicating Dogs on Facebook, YouTube and Instagram. Instagram is a good follow these days. We're posting on there a lot. A lot of the stuff we post on Instagram goes across to Facebook anyway, and all the longer form video content is all on YouTube. And there's a lot of stuff on biggameindicatingdogs.com. And there's links to everything on everything. So just sort of got to get in the mix wherever you prefer. We tend to read and answer messages and comments and things. If you're watching these videos and you would like to listen to these videos and other Q&As in audio format, just a podcast. Podcasts are pretty cool. You can just listen to it while you're driving, or it's just audio, so it's not eating all your data like video does, and you can put the headphones on and listen while you do other stuff. That is the Paul Michaels Revolution podcast. There's all sorts of bits and pieces on there, but it's all well titled, and you can go through and just select big game indicating dog stuff, Palmico dog training stuff, which is just general dog training without all the hunting stuff if you're not into that. And we also do other random stuff over there. It's all labeled and written descriptions, or you can just start listening and work it out. Palmico dog training is my general dog training platform. Basically, as I've been training people to train hunting dogs for years, and every hunting dog is a pet, usually a pet first as well as hunting. Every hunting dog's a pet as well. always have to live with people, and we go over all of that lifestyle stuff, and we always have on how to just have a nice dog that's easy to have around. And people just started saying, well, what if I'm not a hunter, or my cousin has seen my deer dog and is wondering how you get it to be so good as a pet and around the house, and can they do the same? We've even had non-hunters following the blueprint, the deer dog training blueprint, just to get all that basic control and lifestyle training sorted with their dog, kenneling, crating, all of that. So long story short, I just made a whole new business and brand and Facebook and YouTube and Instagram, and a whole new video series called the Palmico Dog Guide, which is just general dog training, none of the hunting stuff. And it's just for anyone that wants to train a good dog that's easy to have around. Again, I'm filming the entire training of my own dog from start to finish. We're doing it with a pup called Miko. She's a Vizsla heading dog cross, real nice little pup. And we've gone through crating inside, kenneling outside, socialization with kids and other dogs, and house training and long line training and stop and go, and it's all there. And the other thing we're doing in the Palmico Dog Guide is remedial training, where we're actually taking older dogs with serious bad habits and showing you how I'm fixing those as well. Both the Palmico Dog Guide and the Deer Dog Training Blueprint, you can subscribe or you can purchase them to own forever. At the moment, you can purchase it to own forever. We might switch over to just subscription based one day. We're not sure, but at the moment, it's if you jump over, all the links are on to the Deer Dog Training Blueprint are on biggameindicatingdogs.com, plus Big Game Indicating Dogs on Facebook and Instagram. All of the links to sign up for the Palmico Dog Guide is on Palmico Dog Training on Facebook and Instagram. On Instagram, links in the bio. On Facebook, if you just scroll around or even hit the Shop Now button, we go straight through to the Palmico website with all that stuff on it, pricing. There's a full trailer there explaining the whole thing, the whole works. We've also got the option for people that are training a big game indicating dog or a hunting dog, or even someone that's interested in that you can get both. You can buy the Deer Dog Training Blueprint and the Palmico Dog Guide together, and we've set it up so if you're going to commit to buying the blueprint and you want the Palmico Dog Guide, it's quite a cheap add-on too. We've got a really cheap combo deal there that you can get both together for not much extra. And that's about it, really. Might wrap it up here. So there's some new videos in the Palmico Dog Guide. We've got heaps coming up. We've got a podcast on the 1st. We're probably both going to be quite hungover after New Year's, but it should be a pretty cool podcast all the same. We might just have a couple of ports. I got a good 10-year-old port for Christmas, so I might just line that up on the side of the podcast table, and we can warm up with a couple of ports and just get back into it. Sweet guys and girls, thanks for the questions. Thanks for attending. Have a good New Year's. We'll talk soon.